Since I was a little girl, I could remember we used to always come down here. A lot of our peoples lived in this area. Aullaviat Anguniarvik. Aullaviat is where peoples travel. Anguniarvik is where they hunt.
I was born in Inuvik, I was raised in Aullaviat all my life, and my grandparents, my father, my mother, we all traveled down to the Yukon North Slope. So that's part of our land.
This is where everybody comes down and harvests their geese and their caribou. And that's why they say it's so important. Everything right here in their kitchen. It's ready to go out there and grab it off the cupboards and ready to go.
When it comes to achieving these types of designations and establishing these areas, that you need a special moment in time where everybody's values is lining up. And that doesn't happen very often.
And Aullaviat Anguniarvik Traditional Conservation Area is something that I would say dates back to developing a land claim agreement. And the discussions at that time were really about conserving this land for people in the future. And if you look at the Inuvialuit final agreement, it talks about having a national park, and we have that park. It's called Inuvialuit National Park, and it talks about a territorial park, Kikiktarik Territorial Park. And then it talks about this land that's called the Eastern North Slope. It's always been known to be important from a conservation perspective, from a wildlife perspective, and then also certainly from a harvesting and use perspective.
Diga ba kaya ang kapta ulo pag magkotak init kay mata una Aullaviat Anguniarvik pimadam
ja Anguniarvik tikinyap tigo kanot kuya naktigibat inuviat tino takkat igilaw kami kanot kuya naktigibat humunaw law tinakakot.
yeah ako kapta
This Traditional Conservation Area Agreement is a step of implementing the Inuvialuit Final Agreement and the vision of the elders and the people who were providing direction at that time and continue to provide direction now.
They've been working for that for a long, long time now. I hope in the future generation will think about that and try to look after the land good. You know, our ancestors lived on the land all their life, and they don't like when you don't look after the land good because they said the land feeds you. As long as we're living off the land, we are healthy.
pleased to welcome you to our community. We thank you for coming and joining with us to celebrate this day, because it's been a long time coming. I'd just like to let the rest of the people around Canada and around the world know that, there are ways that you can set up things to be able to still practice your culture.
For Yukoners as well as Canadians, this is also a part of reconciliation. This is a part of implementing agreements that were signed more than 40 years ago towards having Indigenous people be represented on the landscape in ways that are most important to them.
This June marks the 40th anniversary of the Inuvialuit final agreement. Reconciliation is not a finish line we cross. It happens in acts big and small, like the one you're celebrating today. And to be clear, this one is a very big one.
Having the conservation area, up and running and conserving and doing its thing, I think it should be like a milestone for anyone. Just as long as we're protecting our land, we're conserving our land.
Our major harvesting in Aullaviat would be the porcupine caribou herd, and it is a big part of our diet. And we want them to be there for future generations. I remember as a kid sitting on the hill with my dad, and as far as you could see back, the whole thing was just moving, and far down north as you could see, and far up south, it was just the whole hills were moving. So it's something that you remember. It's a lifetime experience, The
traditional conservation area has always been important to Inuvialuit. And one of the reasons it is so important is porcupine caribou. Porcupine caribou herd's one of the few herds in the world that's actually doing well right now, and there's not a lot of development within the range compared to most migratory caribou in the world. If it wasn't for that part of the Yukon North Slope, there would be a critical piece of the herd's range missing.
I see our people as they're conservation orientated, they want to see something for, your grandchildren and their children. So that's something we try and do in our culture, is to make sure that it's there for generations to come.
We have a very strong working relationship already with the Inuvialuit and with other partners like the federal government. And we work together through a co-management structure that was established under the Inuvialuit final agreement. We've had that for a long time, but I think this new conservation area creates another opportunity for us to kind of take it the next step and to provide a more integrated approach in how we do things. I think at the end of the day, that's really what reconciliation is about.
We know from a conservation perspective that having people on the land is helpful and healthy for conservation. When people are traveling the land, they're seeing animals, they're identifying changes on the landscape, they're telling their co-management partners and researchers what they're seeing out there, and it's the most effective and efficient way that we know of to also enable conservation objectives. The agreement identifies a program, a guardian program. So it's a way of recognizing that experience that people have, that they've gained through a lifetime, in some cases, of being and traveling on the land, and now being able to do that in a paid position. So that's one of the ways that it's working to tie people back to the land and be able for them and contribute to the economy.
We're working with the Guardians to look at how their programs can complement and work with our programs that are existing as well. So we're not kind of running parallel worlds. There's a moose population that migrates out of the Richardson Mountains and goes up to the Arctic coast each year. Working with the community over the past year, we've gone out and we've established a bunch of cameras. And the idea behind those cameras is as the moose are migrating through, we'll actually be able to photograph these moose. But that's a great example where it's not an either-or situation, and at the end of the day, they give us a better understanding of what's happening with this population, which is what all the parties want.
You know, to get out in the land, it's probably 110 miles. And, you know, with the price of gas, it's pretty expensive. So, you know, we give that opportunity for those in the membership. We want them still to be able to enjoy the time out in the land and be able to harvest.
We bring people out to Single Point. We stayed out there for a week. We showed them how to work with fish and caribou. It could be someone that hasn't had experience, hasn't had the opportunity to do it, or someone that had done it in the past but hasn't done it recently. So it's like reintroducing them to it.
It's very important that it's protected, and that's where we harvest. That's where we take our families out in the summer. And now that we have the conservation area, Aullaviat Anguniarvik, we're rich. Like, we have all the food, all the berries, all like things that we can do now. The doors have opened.
You know, it's been a big part of my life. Now I'm 71 years old. You know, I have 25 grandchildren and 6 greats, so I'd like to give them the opportunity to experience, you know, the lifestyle we had. And I think, you know, in today's age where there's so many problems in this world, nice to get them out and, you know, get them out in the land and enjoy themselves. So I think that's pretty neat.
And how do you tell what kind of eggs are those?
The yellow legs.
The yellow legs. Call the snow geese, all of you. Call the Canadian goose. And the yellow legs.
It feels really amazing to be a part of a generational story continuing and part of this kind of special land that we can finally celebrate.
What I hope in 50 years is that for those who are living there, these future generations are going to say, we had ancestors who were forward-looking. We had ancestors who recognized that these places are becoming more and more important. And hopefully we become role models, if you will, for younger generations, because their time is going to come and they're going to be ancestors too. And the question will be, what is their legacy going to be? But places like this are our legacy.
Just being able to go out and walk in the footsteps that they have walked, it just means a lot. It feels that I am closer with, you know, my history. Makes me feel happy and whole, and like I just feel very good that future generations are able to go and enjoy the land the way that I do.
We have land claim agreement. What about tomorrow? a high price of living that everyone is ignoring too. They say we have a future, but what about tomorrow? What about tomorrow's dream? Tomorrow's generation, they may not